The Tom Woods Show, episode 2182.
Prepare to set fire to the index card of allowable opinion. Your daily dose of liberty education starts here. The Tom Woods Show.
Hey, everybody, I'm giving away 3 free courses from my Liberty Classroom. One of them is ex-Marxist Michael Rechtenwald teaching you about critical theory so you can understand leftism and fight it better, as well as our course on how Alexander Hamilton screwed up America and the history of the conservative and libertarian movements. Check it out at 3freecourses.com. Hey, everybody, Tom Woods here. Jeremy Kauffman is back on the show today. He is one of the creators of Library, LBRY.com, which is a blockchain-based file sharing and payment network. It powers platforms like Odyssey, Odyssee, which is an alternative to YouTube, a no-censorship alternative to YouTube. He sits on the board of the Free State Project in New Hampshire, and he's running for U.S. Senate in New Hampshire as a libertarian, and he's been getting some interesting attention for that. So we're going to have some fun talking about that and other things coming out of New Hampshire. Jeremy, welcome back to the show.
It's great to be back.
Man, geez, you are just some big loudmouth kind of libertarian.
I tried to learn from the best, Tom. You know, you were teaching some lessons, school lessons.
If I'm the teacher, then let's just say the student has far surpassed the teacher by this point. So I want to talk a little bit about your race because the things you put out are funny. You know, your stuff is funny and provocative and interesting. And you've been criticized for this, right? You've been criticized. You're making libertarians look bad. You're too extreme. We have to put on a respectable face if blah, 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 blah. I mean, my attitude about that is people who are desperate for respectability, they already have an R or a D after their names. You know, there's no getting that person. That person is not reachable by us. So forget that, first of all. But secondly, before we get into that, I want you to talk to me about what's going on with your race for U.S. Senate in New Hampshire. And apparently there's another candidate. Is this person running for an LP nomination, or are you both simultaneously on the ballot as LP candidates for Senate? What's going on?
We're going right to the drama. There's some very failed actors within the Libertarian Party and the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire that can't seem to let go. You know, I'm not a psychologist, so I don't want to diagnose, what kind of personality traits someone that acts this way might have. But I think part of it is attention. Part of it is a way for him to keep making money. But despite being not elected to any positions in the party, he is running candidates against the unendorsed candidates, but not against me. That guy did the right thing and he dropped out.
Oh.
Yeah. So he's out. Yeah, he kind of felt that he got tricked. Or I don't know. I don't want to put words in his mouth.
Right. Yeah,
but he chose to, in my view, did the right thing. Many other people's view did the right thing. So full respect to him. I have no hard feeling towards him at all.
Now, of course, if we did this to official LP candidates, we'd never hear the end of our villainy.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, no, I think it's good. Actually, so this guy's name's Kevin Kahn. I don't know him that well, but he's moving here to New Hampshire. So he's going to be a new Free Stater. And a bunch of people reached out to him. I think we're doing a decent job rowing together here overall. So there is one bitter person, a couple of bitter people. But for the most part, man, it feels like we're onwards and upwards and mostly working together well as a team.
Well, certainly if you go to PorcFest, which has been like the premier, other than the Liberty Forum, but really PorcFest is a phenomenon really in its own right. That's been really one of the key libertarian events of the past however many years.
Yeah, we missed you this year. You had one of the few reasonable excuses.
That's right. That's right.
We do accept that.
But I had been there for 2 years running before that.
Yes.
And the thing is, even though you have quite a diverse array of people there in terms of, lifestyles and worldviews and whatever, everybody loves each other and everybody's very respectful and friendly. But in particular, let's say the Mises Caucus thing, let's just say it, our contingent is treated just like we're the libertarians. So of course we're going to be treated well at PorcFest. I mean, I would go out there and get a standing ovation from this whole crowd. There was nobody in the back saying, now, wait a minute, I think I heard a little something about this guy. I mean, there's none of that. None of that. That's only online. It's not in reality.
That's completely right. I mean, but I do think it has become one of those things where, I don't know if feud is the right term, but it's one of those things where the people have sort of collected their slights on both sides. I don't know how you unwind it, fighting people that are 95% where we are. This is kind of wasteful. Can we do something else?
I hear you. I hear you. So talk to me about how somebody runs a Senate campaign, a U.S. Senate campaign. Now, a state Senate campaign, that's a little bit different because there you're dealing with very, very mundane. Oh, let's just say a lot of the times you're dealing with mundane issues. Since 2020, even a state Senate campaign now, you're dealing with things involving like the food supply and whether people are allowed to work or not. But in the old days, a state Senate thing, you were dealing with funding for the schools or whatever kind of mundane thing it was, or traffic lights or whatever kind of thing like that. So I could see a libertarian dealing with a state Senate campaign being very, very practical and just focusing on these really pocketbook issues. But when you run for the U.S. Senate, you can get very philosophical and big picture. I don't know how you do it. I mean, there are a lot of different approaches you could take. You could try to be very senatorial and try to speak the language of the regime. Well, it is not in the U.S. interest to be involved in such a... Or you could be Jeremy Kauffman and just not talk that way, just refuse to talk that way.
Talk that way in the right spaces. Twitter is a boxing ring. You can't complain that someone's not being philosophical on Twitter. If you want to have a philosophical conversation with me, I will have one. I had one last night. Sat down with Bruce Fenton and we had a nice, interesting conversation for an hour and a half, bouncing things off of each other. But you've got to appreciate the arena. And if you're going to be competing in social media space, then you've got to have a message that people want to share. And so one of the things I've been doing is, of course, these advertisements that have been basically going viral. They've cost me not too much money to produce. I'm spending no money promoting them. They've been getting hundreds of thousands. One of them is approaching 1 million. I think they all have over 100,000 views, all organically. That is more of a national thing than a New Hampshire specific thing. That's raising my profile. That's bringing in donations. That's bringing in volunteers. And then we are doing all the traditional stuff inside of the state, or at least I'm told it's traditional. I've never been a politician before. The Libertarian Party is helping me, both the state party and the national party. So there's been a ton of support in terms of people stepping up to the plate. And that's been a big part of me being able to do it, is all those people.
I want to make sure I share these videos. Now, I've seen them on Twitter, and I don't know how I'm too dumb to know how I would embed that on my site. So I'm sure there's another, you haven't posted.
I have a video for that, Tom, so I'll send that to you.
To be honest with you, I don't want to know how to do it. I want my assistant to know how to do it. I never want to know how this is done. But I will forward that message onto my assistant so somebody in the Woods orbit will know. But what I love about the ads that you've been running, these videos you've been making, I love them for the exact reasons that the bad guys hate them, that they are so irreverent. Like, they do not act as if the establishment has identified a real problem, but we have libertarian solutions to this problem. Nope, we're not doing that anymore. If there was any possibility that we would ever speak that way, the way the establishment handled 2020 threw that out forever. So what you're going to get instead of, well, this is a big problem, but if we have tradable pollution rights, then we can... The time for that is over. Now, what you're going to get is savage mockery. You're going to get savage mockery because that's all you deserve.
Yeah, I've been a startup guy, I've been an entrepreneur for a long time. And so that's the framework that I know. And so I'm taking that and I'm applying that to politics a little bit. And in Startup Land, we talk about sort of product or product market fit. How good is your product? How much does it resonate with people? Then we also talk about distribution, which is essentially reach. How many people are seeing your product or interacting with your product? How are people going to learn about your product? This idea that somehow you're going to win by having the right stances on stuff, no one's going to see them. No one is going through. I mean, I'm going to say literally no one. There are some very tiny minority of people, but we're talking about like literally under 1% of people are like actually going through the answers in the news on the policy positions and being like, well, I like this guy's policy.
That's right.
How anyone is deciding. And furthermore, like, you have no money. You have no ability. Even if you had the best views and you could really win on that, and that was how politics actually worked, no one's going to see them.
Yeah.
Because who you're going to spit them out into the void in your 200 follower Twitter account? Like, how no one's going to see your incredible policy position. It literally can't work that way. You've got to be doing stuff that will go viral, that will be getting you that distribution because you don't have the money, right? So you've got to be doing stuff that's going to go somewhere. That might mean at times you have to accept it not being 100% resonant message, or a message might be off-putting to some people. You've got to be getting to the spaces you can. And I definitely think for libertarians, a lot of that is like disaffected, drop out, skeptical of the system, think it's all bullcrap, A lot of those people, that's where a lot of your quote natural libertarians have quite reasonably found themselves, right?
Yeah.
So I see that as a market segment to be looking at.
In one of the GOP primary debates that Ron Paul was in, they asked Tommy Thompson, former Wisconsin governor. Actually, they asked everybody, name me something in the federal government that you would actually abolish, not just cut it down or slow the growth, but actually get rid of. And they are all stumbling around for something. So they get to Tommy Thompson, and I don't even remember his answer, but it was like paragraph 38B.7 in some bill had created something that he wanted to get rid of. Nobody knew what the heck he was talking about. And the questioner turned to Ron Paul and said, Dr. Paul, can you do better than that? It was like even the moderator knew how terrible of an answer this is. And yet there is a sense that there are some people who want the libertarian messaging to be that, well, since people aren't quite with us just yet, we better go after that thing they created in paragraph 37, whatever. And I just couldn't be more opposed to that. Because again, people who aren't fully with us, they're not going to vote libertarian. They're going to vote R or D. And I think that the kind of people you're likely to reach are the ones who aren't stuffed shirts, who aren't policy wonks, or who don't feel like Henry Kissinger and Hillary Clinton and George W. Bush deserve a lot of respect and we need to speak this way or that way about them. I consider it to be an impossible and ludicrous waste of time to try to reach somebody who thinks that way. I want to reach all the irreverent people who hold the whole thing in contempt and who will actually laugh at your videos. So anyway, I mean, obviously I'm preaching to the choir here, but I don't see how there's any other way to think about it.
I think what's going on with a lot of these people is they are good libertarians. They are very well-intentioned people. What they simply don't understand is that they're somewhat to very unusual in the way that they actually approach the world and decide things. They really struggle because you can look at the evidence that this stuff works, which ought to be the most important thing. And look, I kind of was that person. People look at me as this like bold messaging guy. I got to libertarianism through the Cato stuff, through the econ stuff, through the boring economic arguments. But I'm an entrepreneur, and if you're an entrepreneur, you go out and you see what works in the real world, and no one gives a crap explaining that minimum wage creates dead weight loss. No one cares at all. It doesn't matter how correct you are. You can't even get that fact checked, right? Like that is a literal truth that ought to, by social media standards, be applied under every post. It's so true. It's so obviously true. It's as true as physics, as far as I'm concerned, that price ceilings and floors create dead weight loss. It's essentially a fact. And it doesn't even matter because that's not the way the world works. And so these people gotta get out of this land that other people are like them, and that they just gotta, that all of a sudden they're gonna become libertarians for the same reason that they did.
And by the way, I'm perfectly happy. I know people come in all different ways, for people to come in any way they want. But I'm just thinking, as a candidate of a party that is, to say, vastly outnumbered would be a huge understatement, I'm going to go the way I think I'm likely to get the most attention, as you say, that I get the most bang for my buck. And it's not going to come from these other strategies. And the thing is, if those other strategies had been getting the LP 40, 45% in big elections like this, and then we came along and we're just causing nothing but trouble and nothing works, that'd be one thing. They act like they've had all this success being serious people. They haven't. They haven't.
Right.
So,
right.
So for them to be lecturing us is a little bit rich. That's my point.
Completely agreed. And that's the number one thing that we should all be unified on. Again, if you've been failing, no one gets to have any confidence about how to do this thing, okay? Because no one succeeded. There's no room for arrogance when you've been failing this much.
Right.
So I completely agree. Obviously, like I'm doing the type of messaging you're talking about. So like I agree with you strategically that it's a good idea. I do think it is about coalition. The LP National is trying to keep as many libertarians together as it can. Even if the posts don't do as well, they should be putting in, some wonky econ stuff and other stuff in the mix if you're trying to keep everyone together.
Before I go on, let me say a quick thing that will help a lot of you, and you know who you are. If you are in business and you're getting buried by your competition online, then build your brand, your reputation, and your lead flow with digital marketing by Persist SEO, our great sponsor. If you're a small local business, you're trying to compete against large companies in the service industry, increase your visibility with Persist SEO. Or if you have low or no leads coming in on a consistent basis, well, website search engine and conversion optimization can help move the needle to a more prosperous business model for you. If you're tired of cold calling, use your website as a lead generation engine. If you're not showing up for your services on the search engines, then get found with Persist SEO's expert search engine optimization. All you have to do is call 770-580-3736 or visit them at ineedseo.help for a free website audit and consultation. That's 770-580-3736 or ineedseo.help. All right, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about what I've been seeing recently, like even from Florida, just reading the news. It seems like the attacks on the Free Staters and the Free State Project, I think almost everybody listening to this knows about, but it had to do with attracting people to one particular state in order to have an influence there, and New Hampshire was chosen, and so that's what the Free State Project is all about. But I've seen more attacks than usual going on against the Free Staters. What's the story there?
So in terms of why they're doing it, we've either really gotten under their skin because we've had some very good couple of years. I don't know if you know me, but I can get under people's skin. I don't know if it's my fault, but no, it's not. It's definitely not my fault. But this, or they think it's good strategy, but I think it can't be good strategy. So I kind of think we were just getting under their skin. Some of these got deleted. We had a Democratic group, an actual Democratic Party from a city, post a sign saying, report this invasive species to drive them out of town. We've had people telling South African Free Staters that they're an invasive species and they need to go back to Africa and stop being colonizers. And this is not like randos. This is the chair of the Democratic Party. This is state reps. This is candidates for state rep using some exterminate Free State, really some insane stuff. And it doesn't get any attention. And it's just the press doesn't care, right? The press in New Hampshire wrote a story about my tweets that they made up. I mean, not made up in the sense that the tweets are real, but they tried to create a controversy where there wasn't one to try to get me kicked out of a dinner. And then that same publication will quote a mainstream Democratic group calling libertarians in New Hampshire an invasive species like that's completely normal. I don't recall it being this bad and being this aggressive in past and this widespread in past years.
But on the other hand, it gets you attention, but I don't know. Is that?
Yeah. I'm not genuinely mad about this. I think it shows how crazy they are. I don't think that they are going to come and they would be insane. Maybe they're ginning up, something among their audience or whatever. But I mean, Free Staters aren't exactly the kinds of people you would mess with generally. So I'm not really worried in that sense. But I mean, I think it reveals a sort of a state that they're in. That I think it's encouraging that they're talking this way. I mean, I think they feel kind of cornered and that they're kind of losing. But I don't think this is going to help them. I think when a lot of people see this, they kind of go I've never seen libertarians be getting attacked this way. What's going? The people who want the state the most are this mad. They kind of their eyes gets them interested.
Is it possible that New Hampshire's federal representation in terms of senators and representatives is all Democrat?
So it's the Senate race is pretty 50-50 this year, I believe, and I'm not sure what the odds are on the congressional race. It'll probably be 1-1. One Republican and one Democrat.
But I mean, right now, your two senators in the U.S. Senate are from what party?
Yeah, it is right now. Yes. And then at the same time, the state government is all Republican. The governor, both branches of government, New Hampshire actually has 3 branches of government. It's weird, but all of them are Republican. So the entirety of the state apparatus is Republican. So New Hampshire is just a bit of a weird state politically. It is a swingy kind of purplish state. The other is that all of the in-state activism among Free Staters, and in terms of the political machine, a huge amount of it is all the people doing the door knocking, the get out the votes, the calling parties, all of this stuff, all of the groups that are doing this, the money, a huge amount of it is coming from Free Staters, and that's all geared in-state. Free Staters haven't generally been focused on the federal races. This year we're seeing some there are really good candidates in every race in New Hampshire. Have you had Lily Tang Williams on your show yet?
I have not.
Oh, So, she's amazing. She's here in New Hampshire, formerly a member of the Libertarian Party, now running as a Republican in one of the New Hampshire congressional districts. And, she's got a decent shot. And there's some other candidates like Tim Baxter and, Bruce Fenton that have decent shots in the Republican Party.
Yeah, I've had Tim Baxter on.
Okay.
So I know him. What can you say about the Senate? I mean, technically you are running against the sitting U.S. Senator.
That's right.
What can you tell us about her?
Who is it?
Who is it?
Maggie Hassan.
Okay.
And I mean, she's like a center left establishment Democrat, tries to mostly be very boring, tries to give the left, just enough of the identity politics, like pandering, like pro-women stuff to keep them on her side, but like is really just a career politician that will say whatever she needs to do. Like she did build the wall ad here in New Hampshire as a Democrat and really angered the progressive wing of her party. But that's what she feels that she needs to do to get elected, here in New Hampshire. So it's like, the most kind of corporate campaign you could imagine. Like everything's managed, everything's, crafted. She has, I think, like $10 million or something banked for her campaign. $10 million for it's all from out of state. Of course, New Hampshire's population is 1.3 million people. It's all money from California and New York, so on. So she's like, she's corporate Dem, personified.
I just can't help noticing, by the way, we were talking before about the attacks on the Free State Project. One of them, in a, I guess, somewhat recent episode of mine, I mentioned this New York Times piece. And the New York Times quotes somebody as saying that the Free State Project, quote, appeals to disaffected white folks who may not want to deal with the complexities of race relations. Now, okay, at least the New York Times had the decency to point out, you know what else is overwhelmingly white? New Hampshire. It's not just the Free State Project. It's the state. Yep. Okay? I mean, Vermont is overwhelmingly white. So any group you start in Vermont is going to have that aspect to it. So it's just crazy that they have to insert a racial dimension into everything. Like we're obsessed with race. No. The only people I see obsessed with race are them.
Yeah.
Like this thought never even dawned on me.
I think it's all projection on their part, too. The New Hampshire Democrats tweeted, the New Hampshire, quote, young Democrats tweeted this picture of their gala where they had some other congressman come out. It's all older white people just about in the audience. And I mean, I hate competing on these grounds because I think it's stupid. But, if you were at Pork Fest, you go to Free State events, like you're going to find the exact opposite. You're going to find a pretty decent diversity of people. So it's like, it's so dumb. And it's so hypocritical. And I mean, it's a stupid text, say hypocritical, but like, I can't believe it works, I guess, that's like working on anyone. You would think that if you open your eyes at all, like it's pretty obvious, what's going on.
What's the deal with this race in terms of the Republican Party, what the polling is showing? This Hassan has, I guess this is only her first term. So she has the incumbent advantage, but maybe not as much as...
But she was governor before, so she is like a career politician in the state.
Yeah. There's that. But is there any prospect that she might be unseated?
Oh, yeah. The betting markets had this one at 50-50 just about.
Really?
Yeah.
So, all right, well, then that raises the traditional LP question. If you're the spoiler and this horrible person goes back to the U.S. Senate and everybody says Jeremy Kauffman's the worst person in the world, what does he say?
If Bruce Fenton wins the Republican race, who's actually a principled guy, I would not mess that up. The other three Republicans in this race are terrible. Like, they're not remotely liberty guys. Like, they are the awful kind of Republican. And okay. I don't think they're the kind that I'm not running against a Rand Paul, like, which I would not do. That was an actual concern of mine when I was approached to run, because I'm not interested in doing that kind of thing. Because I'm very supportive of the Liberty Republicans here. I'm very open about that fact. But they are at best half the party. And there is a group of Republicans that suck. And if I stop one of them from winning, great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Run a good Republican and the Libertarian Party won't challenge you.
Yeah. That particular, I have issues with almost all Republicans.
I don't speak for the party on that, by the way. There's probably plenty of people who disagree with me there. But
everybody's entitled to an opinion on this. But yeah, the answer would be, you got what you deserved nominating somebody like that. You got what you deserved. So good. All right. So what's your website?
Kauffman 4NH, the number 4. The videos that we talked about can be viewed on there. They can also be viewed on my YouTube and Odyssey channel, which can be found just put my name in quotes and YouTube or Odyssey, it'll pop right up. And all those videos are on there. And you can also follow me on Twitter at Jeremy Kauffman. I'm pretty active on there. So if you like Tom, you might like my content.
Yo, absolutely. But Kauffman can be spelled with multiple numbers of F's and N's. So go ahead.
Kauffman.
Okay. All right, good. All right. Well, look, good luck to you. I love how you're doing this. Honestly, I do. And I'm going to try and I'll have somebody here on the Woods team read your email with your article in it about how I'm supposed to, or video on how I'm supposed to embed these things. But but I'll put them up, so they'll be up at tomwoods.com/2182. That's where you'll be able to see these things. And you should. You're going to enjoy them. You're going to say, this is the kind of beautifully done, savage mockery that these people so richly deserve. So head over to tomwoods.com/2182. I'll have that, have all the links that Jeremy just gave, all that stuff up there. So thanks, Jeremy. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Tom.
All right, folks, that's going to do it. Next week, we're going to be talking about international options you might have as an American, or really as anybody, up to and including expatriation, but it doesn't have to be quite that extreme. We're talking about some options there. And then our old friend Tom DiLorenzo has a brand new book coming out on Tuesday called The Politically Incorrect Guide to Economics. And we are going to have him here on the show on the day of release of that book. So some fun stuff coming up next week. If you like and appreciate the old Tom Woods Show, then check out supportinglisteners.com and see all the goodies that you get as a supporter. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Become a smarter libertarian in just 30 minutes a day. Visit tomwoods.com to subscribe to the show for free, and we'll see you next time.
Like the sound of The Tom Woods Show? My audio production is provided by Podsworth Media. Check them out at podsworth.com.